So, hello everybody, I'm really happy to be here, and I also know that I am between you and the cocktail reception, so I'm really going to try to be very straightforward and very direct. But I do want to take a little bit of time to talk about this concept of a master protocol or a platform trial. I'll talk about that in a minute, and tell you about why we're looking at it for Duchenne. So the term master protocol, for PPMD, it simply is a way to change how clinical trials are conducted today, with the goal of trying to shorten the amount of time that it takes to get new drugs approved. It's a general term. Master protocol is a general term for a type of trial where you can study multiple drugs at one time, and you also can study multiple patient types. So you can study those who walk and those who don't walk, those who are on steroids, those who are not on steroids. They're all eligible to be mutation. It's not mutation specific, so they're all eligible to be in this trial. As Pat said, I think earlier this morning, how we do clinical trials today is we build one house, we build all that infrastructure, we get these sites activated, and then at the end of that trial, 10 years, as the previous speaker just said, we tear it all down, and then the next trial starts. Well, that represents some inefficiencies. So imagine an apartment building where there's apartments inside this one shared infrastructure. Not everything is shared. You have to have some shared infrastructure, but there can be some flexibility with each apartment inside the building, but imagine that as what this master protocol is. So there's several types of master protocols. The type that we're exploring for Duchenne, it's called the platform trial. That's why we're trying to switch the name up and start referring to it as a platform trial. For today's purposes, I'm going to use platform trial. So why? Why are we talking about a platform trial? Why are we exploring this for Duchenne? So I think all of you know, and we heard previously, conducting clinical trials is long, it's expensive, it's inefficient, and sometimes it can be really, really heartbreaking. Over the years, we've heard from you. I think Ryan takes calls all the time. We hear how you walk into your clinician's office, and it perhaps might be difficult to get some information about clinical trials. Or maybe you find out that there's only one clinical trial that's recruiting at your site, and then you realize that you're not eligible for that particular trial that's recruiting at your site. Maybe you walk too fast, or you can't lift your arms high enough. Or maybe you are eligible for that one clinical trial, and you're researching it, and every time you ask when it's going to start, when it's going to open, they say, well, it's not recruiting yet, it's not ready yet, and so you wait, and you wait, and you wait. Or maybe you actually did get into a clinical trial, and obviously we saw that beautiful pipeline chart. There are a lot of trials that are ongoing. And you're in that trial, and then you're on the extension study, and a year passes, and then another year passes, and then maybe even a third year passes. So you've been in this trial for a long time, and you say, where are the results? Don't they know if this drug is working yet? And what happens if another drug comes along that you think might be better? What do? Do any of these situations sound familiar to you? Raise your hand. I think probably that they're familiar to some of you. And it's not that we're complaining, but we're trying to make this situation better. So this is what we're trying to change in Duchenne. So we looked around, and we saw that in other diseases that they are using platform trials successfully. They're solving some of these issues. So this is what this effort is all about. We're just exploring if a platform trial might work for us in Duchenne. So what might the possibilities be for a platform trial in Duchenne? So if we're successful, and it's a heavy lift, it's not an easy thing. Annie's harmonization effort, the collaboration, getting all the sponsors to work together, this is what it's going to require. But if we can do it, this is what we hope for. We hope that you get to walk into your clinic, and your clinician informs you of a multitude of options, of research options that you're eligible for. And that regardless of how fast you walk up a set of stairs, or how high you can lift your arms, or whether you're on steroids, or your mutation type, that you can get into this clinical trial. We hope that sponsors, if they go to the FDA because their drug turns out to be working, that because we've been able to include all these patient types up front, that they're able to get a broad label. And it's not like a narrow label and then later on we have to add on and expand who can get access to this drug. And we also hope that if you get into this kind of trial, that you have a smaller chance of being on a placebo. Now imagine that apartment building, and imagine the placebo arm being the foundation, the floor. It's something that's shared by all the apartments in there, by all the studies. So in effect, you don't have to have as many people in that placebo arm per study, so you have a lesser chance of being on placebo. And lastly, we hope that all the data that you contribute to trials, your clinical data, the biological data, that across the platform sites, all the sites that are participating, we can collect all that data, we can aggregate it, we can analyze it, and we can disseminate the results quickly so that we can use it to answer we heard multitudes of unanswered questions that we have in Duchenne, so we want to be able to answer those questions quickly. So, platform trials, why not Duchenne? Why can't they work in Duchenne? So I'm showing you all these press clippings to show you that this concept is being talked about from the Institute of Medicine to HHS to the FDA because of the value that they can provide. We didn't make up this concept. This is being looked at in other diseases. As I said, these trials have already been implemented in some other diseases, namely cancer, but they're being looked to as models, and they're in other diseases, including rare diseases. So PPMD, I think I work for this lady right down there, and she doesn't leave any stone unturned. And we have to think ahead. We can't wait. If this idea might work in Duchenne, we have to start thinking about it now and how to make it happen. So to close this talk, I wanted to show you a video of Dr. Janet Woodcock, who is part of the leadership of the FDA, and she's very involved with the regulatory process for Duchenne drugs, all neurology drugs. She spoke at our recent COMPASS meeting, the patient-focused drug development meeting that we had last March, and probably many of you either were there or perhaps you watched remotely. She spoke about, for 20 minutes, a long time, and the clip I'm going to show you is near the end. Leading up to this clip, she was talking about a lot of the issues that we've heard people talk about today. How to make trials inclusive of more types of patients, how to make things more streamlined, some of the unanswered questions that we have, the role of inflammation, what really is the steroid dose? We don't really know that, as I think we heard someone say today. So here is the clip.
However, some groups have set up what are called master protocols, and there the community or consortium controls the study, and they can test many different things in those studies. They could test corticosteroids at different doses or regimens. They could test many different things, and they can test a lot of new drugs, and they could test them in different age groups. I won't go into all the statistical design issues and so forth, but I think you can see that once you would set up something like that, it could have a life of its own. Master protocols are intended not to just test one intervention. They're intended to continuously improve the disease over time, the outcomes for the disease over the time, and test different things. Some things will turn out to be negative and they should be dropped quickly, okay? Other things look promising, maybe they need more study.
So that's just a little bit of a clip that she really started talking about how a platform trial might really be very valuable for us in Duchenne. And the FDA has been very supportive of our explorations, what we're trying to do, help us work through some of the issues. So where are we headed? What are the next steps? In order to be successful, we need your support. We need every single person in this room, your willingness to consider what this might mean for you and for our community. I think we're all excited about this new generation of drugs that we are hearing about. I mean, it's thrilling and it's really, really promising, but we still have a long way to go. And we know that there's not going to be one magic solution that appears and it's just, wow, it's all right here. There's still a lot of work to do. This is the new generation of clinical trials that I think can help us get there, combined with everything else. So next steps, we have teams of people that have been working on this process, this project. We have some sponsors who are helping us. I mean, at first it was, really? You think we can do this? And so our job is to say, let's not look at, our challenge is to look at how we can do this. So they've been really helpful in trying to chip away at some of the challenges and the issues and how we might make this work. We've had meetings with the FDA. We just had our last one in May, and they were very helpful in terms of helping us understand the overall framework and some of the flexibility that each sponsor would have within the overall trial design. So, I mean, that's really basically all I wanted to say, just a very high-level overview of what the platform trial is trying to do, why we're doing it. We're gearing up. We're trying to design the best straw man protocol that we can come up with input from you, with everybody. And then we have a cross-stakeholder public workshop that we're scheduling for probably the beginning of the year. I think Pat said December, but that might be January or February. And that's a time when we'll be able to receive input from everybody to figure out if this is really going to work for Duchenne. So with that, go have a glass of wine, say hello to a new face or juice, and help us consider the possibilities of what this might bring to Duchenne. Thank you.